Hello, I'm Colonel Michael Wright. I was the last commander of the Lowry Technical Training Center, Lowry Air Force Base, Colorado. Since 1938, Lowry Field has been an important landmark in Denver and a major contributor to our nation's defense. It began as an Army Air Force technical school that became a major training center during World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Over its 57 years, Lowry was on the cutting edge of air and space technology. Here is Lowry's story.
From a windswept prairie to an active Air Force base, Lowry's rich military history provides a sense of place and community, and a vitality that sustains the thriving urban neighborhood that Lowry is today. In 1903, at the present site of Lowry Field, Lawrence C. Phipps built the Agnes Phipps Memorial Sanatorium for the treatment of tuberculosis. In 1924, the Colorado National Guard named the airport at 38th Avenue and Dahlia Street Lowry Field in honor of Lieutenant Francis B. Lowry, a Denver resident killed in 1918 in France while serving as an artillery observer and aerial photographer for the Army Air Service. In 1934, when the Army found it necessary to relocate the photography and armament schools from Chanute Field in Illinois to Denver, citizens of Denver bought the sanatorium land and buildings and offered them to the Army. On October 1, 1937, the American flag was raised over the Phipps Sanatorium, establishing the Denver branch of the Air Corps Training School. The next year, the new technical school was officially named Lowry Field. Soon, students and aircraft began arriving. A 4-year, $3.5 million construction program enabled the construction of Hangar No. 1 and the 8,000-foot north-south runway. The new Lowry Field continued to grow from 1,400 personnel in December 1939 to 8,000 in June 1941. As the international situation deteriorated, the number of classes increased significantly, all in preparation for the challenges to come in the World War II years. The base began to meet the challenges of war with a significant increase in base manpower, both civilian and military, eventually reaching in excess of 20,000 persons. The Brick Barracks, the largest building and focal point of the base, grew from 850 residents at the beginning of the war to 3,600 by 1943. During World War II, training production rose to 55,000 service men and women annually. The training command adopted a 7-day-a-week schedule with 3 8-hour shifts daily. Lowry trained personnel from many Allied countries, including Great Britain, France, and China. In 1942, construction of Lowry II began on the northeast part of the base. This phase involved a chapel, theater, mess hall, living quarters, and a service club. The photography school specialized in aerial photographic laboratory work, camera repair, cinematography, and production of training and orientation films for the Air Corps. Graduates went to war to take pictures from the air, much like Lieutenant Lowry did in World War I. The armament school dealt with sidearms, machine guns, bombs, and bomb racks. Men from Lowry became the core group of some 15,000 bombardiers trained during World War II. As training intensified, the crews needed to practice bombing runs, so more land to the east around what is now the Aurora Reservoir was acquired, becoming the Lowry Bombing Range. The Lowry curriculum changed as technology evolved. When remote control gun turrets were developed, Lowry became the only school to teach repair and maintenance of such turrets. Lowry Air Force Base also served as an important base for varied flight operations for many years. Many famous World War II aircraft could be seen on Lowry ramps and runways. When the war ended in 1945, the armed forces began to demobilize, and Lowry gradually returned to a peacetime training schedule, but peaked again during the Korean and Vietnam Wars. Lowry Field became Lowry Air Force Base on June 13, 1948. To support the Defense Department in the Cold War era of the 1950s and 1960s, Lowry progressed to the cutting edge of air and space technology. Courses were offered in missile operations and maintenance, missile guidance, radio-operated fire control systems, and electronic computer sciences, in addition to the photography and armament training. Several events in the 1950s occurred that enriched Lowry's history. In 1953, the base became the summer White House for President Dwight Eisenhower and Mrs. Eisenhower. From 1955 to 1958, the Lowry II area became the temporary location for the newly authorized Air Force Academy. In August 1958, Lowry bid farewell to the cadet wing as it moved to its new permanent quarters in Colorado Springs. In addition, Hollywood arrived when a portion of the 1954 movie The Glenn Miller Story, starring Jimmy Stewart, was filmed at Lowry, utilizing various facilities, including Hangar No. 1, which is now the home of the Wings Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum. In the 1960s, the Air Force assigned Lowry a new and different mission: to become an intercontinental ballistic missile (ICBM) base. 3 missile silos housing Titan missiles were constructed at the old Lowry bombing range. By 1965, the Titan missiles were removed. The silos remain visible at the site. The Vietnam War led to implementation at Lowry of aerial nuclear weapons training, advanced aerial missile operations and maintenance, and guided bomb technology. Due to increasing air traffic at neighboring Stapleton Airport and close-by residential development, there were safety concerns. There had been some crashes in residential areas surrounding Lowry. Economic considerations and runway operational requirements led to Lowry ceasing transient jet traffic on June 1, 1960. All flying ended on June 30, 1966. By the 1980s, Lowry training began on various air-launched guided missiles and on space operations with Buckley Field as a training annex. In January 1980, a B-52D aircraft for armament training arrived at Lowry via ground transportation. This aircraft is currently on display at the entrance to the Wings Museum. Despite Lowry's stellar contribution to the Air Force readiness in so many specialties, a 1991 government commission on base realignment and closure recommended the base be closed. Its report cited consolidation savings, lack of active runways, and the base's high resale potential. Over 1 million servicemen and women served at Lowry Air Force Base. On September 30, 1994, the American flag came down in front of the Lowry headquarters building, ending 57 years of training excellence. The closing of Lowry caused apprehension for the future of the surrounding neighborhoods and the loss of millions of dollars the base contributed to the local economy each year. However, political and business leaders from Denver and Aurora cooperated to formulate a plan to build a vibrant, mixed-use community that embraced Lowry's unique history. The redevelopment of Lowry Air Force Base serves as a model for other base closures throughout the U.S. Building 251, Commander's House, the only remaining building from the original Phipps Sanatorium, is the white Spanish-style private residence on the south side of 6th Avenue, just east of Quebec Street. Building 27, Chapel No. 1. Today, it is owned and maintained by the Lowry Foundation and is on the National Register of Historic Places. Building 402, Hangar 2, now houses a number of businesses and restaurants. Building 349, originally the Brick Barracks. This building later became the Air Force Base Headquarters. Today, the Grand Lowry Lofts has less than 200 apartments there. Building 380, Photo School, today houses medical offices. Building 1499 is now Big Bear Ice Arena. Building 1433, Tech Training Labs, is now Match Buff High School. Lowry has come a long way since 1937. Over all the years, Lowry still contributes buildings, businesses, and schools that contribute jobs, homes, and historical sites to Metro Denver.
It has been a proud history. Today, the redevelopment of Lowry Air Force Base is a model for other base closures throughout the United States. Incorporating the old and blending in the new has created a new Denver community that carries on the Lowry tradition proudly.